Hey everyone, and welcome to another Yogi Misfit sessions. My name is Danny Pomploon, and I am your host. Today is session 44, and I get to talk with a good friend, Jen Corley. She actually works over at this company called We Travel. We met because of her working at the company, and she reached out to me to help me out on retreats. We talked all about the retreats. I have a few retreats coming up myself, and retreats to me are actually like probably one of my favorite parts of teaching yoga because I get to take people out on all these really fun and yummy experiences where community begins to be created on its own. But we get to dive in, and then she also talks about how We Travel can support yoga teachers. So if you're out there running your own retreats, it's a great platform. I use it all the time. I wish I got money for saying that, but I don't. I'd like to remind everybody too that we're now on Spotify. So you can search under the Yogi Misfit sessions or under Danny Pomploon. And as always, if you love the show, please write us a review on iTunes. It really, truly does help support the show, and you can share it with your friends. Without further ado, here is the next session. Hey Jen, how are you?
Hey Danny, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. It is cold. I feel like I complain on the show about how cold I am all the time.
Yeah, I'm lucky to be recording from inside my cozy kitchen. But yeah, it's an inside day for me,
You,
I think.
you, you should see my fancy office. I'm sitting on the floor of my bedroom with a kitchen chair and my microphone on said kitchen chair. It's very fancy. Here at Danny Pomplin Studios, nothing but high quality.
Yes, and I'm accompanied here by my French bulldog, so hopefully we won't hear any little yapping noises in the background. I've tried to keep him quiet and calm, but similarly, this is not like a professional recording studio that I'm operating out of.
I've actually been asked, like, where do you do your podcast at? I'm like, on the floor of my bedroom. They're like, no, really? I'm like, no, really? It's me on the floor of my bedroom, sitting on a zafu. And then I have a kitchen chair to hold my microphone up. But hey, there you
Whatever
have it.
works. Yeah.
The secret's out.
Yeah. No, that's all good.
So, Jen, I wanted to chat with you about a couple things, and I'm just going to dive right on in. One, I just sent you an email and introed you to a couple yoga teacher friends because I feel like what you do changes everyone in the yoga industry's lives.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I really do. I really do feel like that way. So you work for a company called We Travel, and we're going to dive into that in a second. But I want to talk to you about yoga retreats. How do you feel about them? Why do you do them? What do you get out of them? Why do they make your I know you love them in general and you love the experience of it. And that's like, I think now you don't even teach classes. You just do retreats and then the We Travel thing. But what is it about retreats that like fills you up?
Man, there's so many things. So
I know.
could blab on and on, but
I just unloaded everything on you.
no, I mean, that's such a central question, I think, to probably the discussion we're going to have today. But I mean, there's the obvious kind of magic that happens when you're able to connect with your teacher outside. I mean, as great as studio classes or even privates or workshops are, they're generally in kind of a familiar space and you're still not fully removed from, the day to day in a way that you're, physically transported somewhere. Whether it's just creating space locally or actually moving somewhere, you're making a conscious effort to sort of disconnect from daily life. And I think that has the power to sort of just change your practice in a different way, also deepen your connection with your teacher, and really kind of, that's a very special experience in terms of deepening your practice and maybe, helping you come through to some, new level of understanding of yourself or your practice. And that's all wonderful. But it's funny because I was actually just having a conversation yesterday with another teacher who leads retreats, and she'd written a blog article about how, I think rightfully so, self-care is getting getting a lot more attention and people are understanding its importance and everything. But we were like, just kind of, both as people very immersed in yoga and very big believers in retreats, we were like, it's really strange. Like, when I most need self-care and time out to retreat and I'm depleted tends to be when I kind of fight, and have the financial resources to do it. If you're wrapped up in a lot of projects or just, busy doing all of the great stuff that you do every day, sometimes that's the time that I've found it hardest to take the time out. And I think that's probably true of a lot of other people too. But so it's like, there's a tension between, well, I'm busy, so this isn't a good time to go on a retreat, but it's like, oh, this is the time I really could use and benefit from a retreat. And so I think when people make that leap, sometimes it's just, it brings a totally different perspective, to your life coming out of it. And there's almost like there's an excitement phase gearing up. Obviously the retreat experience itself is phenomenal. Generally, it always has been for me. And then the transition back into real life, it's a whole cycle of growth and, personal development. And yeah, I just think it's such, beyond all of those things I just mentioned too, it's such if you love travel like I do, it also can be a great way to visit somewhere that's special or meaningful or beautiful or connects you to nature and combine that with your practice. So, I mean, obviously there's financial and familial and professional and all these other constraints that can keep us from, going on retreat regularly. But I feel like it really is, it's a wonderful experience generally for teachers to hold that space. And for students, it's most people, it's very rare that I hear people come away from retreat being like, gee, I really wish I didn't go on retreat.
Yeah. I recently just talked to a teacher, I don't know, in the last maybe like 2 weeks, I think it was, but she was telling me, she's like, I actually don't think retreats are for me. And I was just like floored. I'm like, that's one of my favorite parts of my, of what I do. I was like the retreats, because one, I get to take students and really spend time with them. Like, when I take people out on a retreat, I like to get to know my students a little more one-on-one. So I try to spend time with everybody, and whether that's hanging out inside a pool or going to a beach together, like this last time we went ziplining and I got to like hang out with the people that I was ziplining with, and just to be able to take people out of their element, and I know there is a lot of gearing up when you're getting ready to go to it. There is a financial commitment, but when you're there and you're not worried, like you're there and you paid for it, and there's nothing else to worry about. You're just doing the thing. You're having a good time. And I love seeing community come together in retreats. I've hosted a few retreats now, and a lot of them, people know each other in the yoga studio. Like, oh yeah, that's the person that's like normally on the front, or that's the person that's like on the side over here. But they never really, got a chance to talk to them. And, you leave watching these like, 20, 30 people, whatever it is, just like creating these big bonds. And then they start to come to class together.
Yeah.
And then, they post, and I always do Facebook groups because I think it's a great way to stay connected after the retreat and share pictures and whatnot. But then you see them like, hey guys, we're going to dinner over here. Like, I love that. I like, someone had gave me the title once of Master Connector. And
I love that.
It's so true, because even me and you are friends, but like, how many emails do I send you? Like, you need to meet this person and you need to talk to this person. And I love that. For me, it's like creating an orchestra of friendship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's so cool when you see people that wouldn't connect in the studio because they're a different age or they look different or whatever it is, but or they sit on opposites. The mats are set up on opposite sides of the room for whatever reason all the time.
Right.
So people finally have their like spots that they go to all the time. But yeah, it's amazing. People connect and yeah, you're totally right. It brings people together in a way that really creates community, and then that comes home with people and stays with them. And yeah, it's pretty.
Let's debunk some of the myths of retreats for teachers.
Okay.
They're always relaxing for teachers.
Yeah. Yeah.
What goes in, like, I know what I do for the back end of it. What goes in for you? Like, when people are always like, oh my God, you're going to retreat for a week. That's going to be so exciting. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not relaxing for me all the time. It is to an extent. The office isn't so bad that week or those days or whatever it is. But like, describe for maybe some people that don't know the back end of things, like what actually goes into it.
Yeah. I mean, it's an arc. Like, there's the whole kind of if I think about it as a progression, and I think it's important to bear in mind for all the teachers out there that maybe haven't led retreats before to be really aware of this, because I think when people kind of calculate how they're going to get compensated, obviously most people don't go into retreats like hoping to like make a huge pile of money. And if they do end up doing that, awesome, more power to them. But generally it's much like teaching yoga. It's a desire to serve and a love for teaching. But I think it's also, on the other hand, important to understand all of the stuff that goes into the process. And so that starts, I think, earlier than some people might think. The whole conceptualization phase can be really, really fun. The possibilities are endless at that point, but also you've got
Yeah.
all the planning and the work lying ahead of you. And then so finding your venue and kind of pre-marketing and floating your idea with students to make sure it's a viable plan. Signing contracts, getting up to speed on what you should be looking for in a contract, figuring out a way to price and budget, and setting up a really clear, easy way for people to actually register, pay you, get you the information that you need, you to manage all of that process, because it's a lot more email traffic that's going to be in your inbox than you have probably on, in other parts of the year. You'll have, potentially, depending on how you're handling things, you may be working with spreadsheets, you may be working with, different payment processing services, you may be, just doing a lot of back and forth and admin stuff that adds to your, quote, day job. And that's kind of, leading up into the marketing cycle. The marketing itself doesn't have to be painful, but I think for a lot of teachers that aren't super natural self-promoters, there can be a lot of anxiety around that. So that's not so much, necessarily tons of work, but it's sometimes a thing that takes people out of their comfort zone, anticipated or not. So there's that to consider. I don't think that's a myth or like something that needs to be debunked per se, but I think, just generally this idea that leading up to retreats, there's a lot that goes into it. I think people are generally aware about that, but not to the extent of actually what it takes. But then I think I wanted to touch back on something you sort of alluded to quickly, which was that, once you get on retreat, like my advice would be, don't, even if you're super prepared going in, don't imagine that once you get there, everything's just going to go exactly as planned. And that, even if you schedule some downtime, it's pretty intense. You're kind of on the clock 24/7. And, I think students really appreciate when their teachers don't create too much space between, so that the connection is there and they feel seen and heard, and that their teacher is available to them. But that's a fine balance with, with the fact that also teachers are human and they need a little bit of time to decompress each day so they can go in fresh, for, the next meeting of the group or the next day, get enough rest, and just be able
Yeah.
to show up, in a really, fresh way each day. So I think, one thing might be like once you get to the retreat, kind of the work is behind you, and then I think after, one other thing is that like after the retreat, it's like, okay, now it's kind of all over, but there's, I think, both a fun but maybe an unexpected amount of kind of post retreat work that goes in, because of course you want to be in communication with your students, make sure they're communicating, sharing pictures, hopefully giving you good reviews, collecting
Right.
all the photos that you've, got assembled during the retreat. So you can, if you're planning to do it again because it went well, get your marketing stuff teed up for the next offering that you have. So it's not to scare anyone away from doing retreats. I just think that being really aware of all of these pieces of the puzzle and how they fit together, and having like kind of a timeline and a bit of organization. I mean, whatever works for you is great, but just, maybe pairing up with someone your first time around or keeping it local, and starting, starting like, biting off as much as you feel comfortable chewing kind of the first few times around and building from there. You know, I think that helps a lot. And I also think another myth is that like a lot of teachers feel like, maybe they like need to go it alone or be Superman or Superwoman and do everything themselves. But it's amazing, especially if you have good students or someone who's willing to do work trade or, whatever
Yeah.
it might be. Like, don't shy away from asking for help from friends and colleagues and peers and whoever is in your tribe that might be willing to raise their hand and give you some help. You'd be
Yeah.
amazed how kind and generous people are with their time in general.
I mean I have a kick-ass operations my sidekick is what I call
Yeah.
her. She's more like the glue that keeps me together, but like if it wasn't for her, like I would just be all over the place. When I first started doing retreats, I was a little bit scared because it was like I remember my first one, it was really small. I just took a group of almost 40 to Costa Rica, and my first retreat was like 10 people, and I was like, how am I going to get 10 people? Oh my god, what am I going to? And now it's like, okay, fine, whatever. That's like, you just when you get used to a bigger scale of things, kind of everything else seems a little bit more normalized. But when I first started, and this is before I met you, and I want to tie this in and totally shamelessly plug what you do because I love it so much. I really do. I really, really, I mean, I don't know how many emails I've sent you so far, people being like, you need to talk to her immediately.
A lot, and I appreciate it every time. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I used to do everything on a spreadsheet, right? I'd get people's information and type it in, and then I would take payments via like PayPal or like Venmo or checks or cash. And I would have to enter it into all this spreadsheet. And at the end of the day, the spreadsheet would take more time than the retreat itself. Like, seriously, because then you have to like go and you have to like check payments and then like, oh, okay, I have to send an email because this person hasn't paid me yet.
Yeah.
So then I met you, it's been like 2 years now,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
3.
Probably about 2, because I joined We Travel just over 2 years ago. So it's probably about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we met about 2 years ago, and you were like, hey, Danny, I'm Jen from We Travel. And I was like, what does this person
Yeah.
want? Like,
What are they trying to
what are they trying to
sell? What wool are they pulling over my eyes? I know.
Because nobody wants
Yeah.
that shit, like don't come up and sell like, oh, we're going to make this feel better. But then you were like, this is a really truly free platform. We just, we charge a little percentage of a credit card fee or whatever, or, a payment fee like any other company would do, except yours is a lot less. And you introduced me to the We Travel platform, and I have had, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 people convert, and then a yoga studio and a couple other things, because this thing is a game changer. Like, everything that you thought you were doing beforehand is now just automated. So, I mean, I guess I'm going to start by saying that this platform one has changed my life.
Awesome to hear.
Because
Makes for great job
I swear,
satisfaction.
I am not even kidding. I do my teacher trainings through there. I do my retreats through there. I do my teacher tune-up weekend, like everything through there, because it's so organized and it saves me so much time. And I guess we could talk about 2 parts of this. For yoga teachers, out there listening, like, do the thing that you want to do, which is teach the yoga, and leave the back end stuff like for somebody else or this awesome platform. And for the students, save yourself the headache of having to, do like keep track of payments on your own, log into this thing, and everything is spelled out for you. Like it, Jen, you can probably speak to it a lot more than I can. All I can say is if you're not using it, you're a bozo.
It's a good endorsement. I love it.
Today's episode brought to you by We Travel. You're a bozo if you don't use it.
Yeah, we should make that a tagline. Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like, because I come from the background of being a teacher, like, I understand a lot of the pain is real around, you want to teach and focus on that and not have to be, wearing these hats of web developer, Excel spreadsheet guru, on your email constantly, all the things you sort of alluded to. But actually, like, I want to take a step back, and our company was founded actually by our CEO used to work for the Red Cross in Central Asia, and he'd have sabbaticals periodically where he would have free time, and his salary was pretty low. So to make extra money on the side, he led tours. He had a lot of, insider connections in the region. So he would lead tours through kind of like the Silk Road. And it was real, kind of like yoga teachers, he's stepping out of his everyday quote job to wear the hat of a group trip leader. It wasn't a retreat then in this case, but same idea. And he was just like, why doesn't he was using Venmo, he was using Google Sheets, he was emailing people. He was like, I was constantly uncomfortable having to like send email reminder after email reminder being like, hey, can you pay up? Like you still owe me 500 euro. Like what's the deal? And especially if it's people he sort of knew or knew tangentially, like yoga teachers with their students and larger, network of their friends as well. Like, that can be like, not the most pleasant thing in the world to have to do. And so he kind of, this seed was planted at that point because like, there really should be something online that aggregates all of these tools, brings them into one place, and just sort of is built, with the exact purpose in mind of, for people that are organizing group travel, whether it's yoga retreats or service trips to other parts of the world or student groups. We support yoga, and I focus solely on yoga and wellness retreats in general. But that's kind of the genesis for how the company got started. And then, he built a really talented team in terms of our developers. And I think the product has gotten to a place where it's super, robust, and we're constantly adding stuff and trying to make it better, just like any tech startup, constantly, evolving and growing and responding to user feedback. But yeah, I think what collaboratively the team has built is just so it meets like such an unmet need. And so lucky, for us as a startup, that's kind of what you want to be doing, is solving a problem that exists and helps people. And when I hear from people like you that have, gotten introduced to the platform, tried it for a few different iterations, especially if they had prior experience doing it kind of with a more of a DIY approach, I just constantly am hearing like this, thank you so much. This is so awesome. I love it. And like, I actually cannot honestly think of someone that used us and said for the next time around, no, thanks, this wasn't for me. So yeah, it's just, that's really, I mean, it's kind of like why, I love teaching yoga, but if I had to have kind of more of a traditional job, this is a great one because I'm interacting with teachers all the time, and I do feel like what we do is like really helping them keep sane, keep their retreats running smoothly, hopefully grow their business and their income a little bit. And it's fun for me to see all that come together. So I'm quite happy where I am here.
Nice. I mean, again, I feel like I'm telling something, but I'm really not. Like, I'm just telling people, save your time and your energy to do the things that you love to do and use the freaking platform, because it really is a game changer. And I'm saying that now. I wish you should be giving me money, Jen. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. We're pausing the episode for a second. Call the CEO. I want money for this.
We'll have a sidebar discussion about that.
I just created a great marketing for you guys. Use We Travel or you're a bozo.
I know. I literally am writing it down.
I could see it on a billboard.
Yeah,
today.
if we have a budget for a billboard, I think that could catch a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, totally right. Mainly people being like, "Why are you calling me a bozo?" No, it saves you so much time and money, and time is money, right? Like, it saves you so much time and money, and by the time you get to the retreat, like, everything is there for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You can actually spend time with your students. You don't have to be a student and be like, "Oh, when am I going to pay this?" Like, da 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 da. Like, it's all just there and spelled out for you. Like, retreats to me are really special. They're really, 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 they're like one of my favorite things. Retreats and trainings are like my jam. I love teaching my public classes, but I love to be able to really like get down and dirty with my folks, like be in the trenches with them and like actually spend that time and get to know them. And I don't want to spend my time on that retreat like worried about all the other stuff that goes with it. Like, I'm glad it's just done and over with.
No, I know. And I think like kind of to your point, while it's like, obviously we've touched on all the ways it's great for teachers, I think it's really nice for the retreat participants too, because it's an intuitive kind of, way of registering and paying where it's, really clear that they, can go through just a few clicks of kind of selecting, what room or package or what add-ons like bodywork they want. They can provide all of the information that, you require as a retreat leader relative to a customizable questionnaire that you can set up. So they fill out that kind of in part or in full, and then they complete their payment. They get a receipt and a confirmation. It all looks really professional. And this all happens totally automated, including like the ability to set up payment plans for people or discount codes or, a lot of stuff that otherwise would be like special cases that would require, manual work on the retreat organizer's end. It's really simple, I think, for the students. They feel like it's easy to keep, kind of a professional looking interface that's intuitive, user friendly, doesn't require a lot of like work on their side. And they, and also the tools for kind of keeping in communication with the group. That's super important. And you mentioned having a Facebook group, which I think is totally a good kind of a best practice for pre and post retreat in terms of building community. But similarly, the platform lets you send out emails to all or certain subsets of your group, depending on kind of what message you need to convey. And it just makes, that staying in contact and sort of, getting people excited and revved up and prepared, on a practical and also emotional, spiritual level to go on retreat, making sure that all of that's done and well taken care of, but doesn't become, hours and hours of work to manage all of that. I think the students, I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from actually the students going on retreat saying like, oh, this was really nice that everything was there for me. And I if I wanted to go back in and pay an installment or fill in the rest of my questionnaire or whatever, there was a place I could do that with just kind of one click that was, it doesn't take a tech savvy person on the retreat leader side nor on the student side to kind of get the way the system works. And that's valuable because not everyone, including myself going into this job at We Travel, is like super tech wizard. So you don't need to be that.
Yeah, I agree, man. I totally agree. It's man, it's a lifesaver all the way around.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Jen, I cannot thank you enough for giving me my royalty check after this episode.
Yeah. Well,
I can't think.
We'll have to,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we'll definitely be thanking you, and doing whatever we can to help you out and give you the white glove treatment because you've been such a supporter and an advocate. And it's like, it's awesome to work with people like you.
It's me thanking you guys, man. I'm dead serious. Like it's really has, I can't even tell you how many hours I've spent on spreadsheets, and now I just log in and I click a button when someone hasn't paid or whatever. I need to send a reminder. I literally just hit one button and then an okay, and it's done. It's like you guys have saved. If anything, I feel like I owe you guys money.
Oh no, it's a great thing about tech. It's like you build it and then you obviously listen to feedback and keep iterating and improving. But it's there and it automates so much stuff that just I'm glad to hear that your experience has been really positive, and I hear that a lot. And just like I said, it makes me just happy to be in this role and be interacting with teachers, which is such a great population to interact with. It's not it's a lot of a lot of less fun people I could be chatting with on a daily basis, but I have awesome conversations and I travel vicariously by hearing about everyone's amazing retreats that they have going on. And people have so much creativity and so much to bring to the table, and it's always great when you can let them bring that to their students instead of bring that energy to all of the fluff and like you said, the spreadsheets and the drudgery that unfortunately is reality. But we're trying to alleviate that pain as much as we can.
Nice. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today and just for sharing and And yeah, it's always good to talk to you. I heart you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you.
So until the next Yogi Misfit session, this is Danny and Jen saying peace out.
All right. Bye, folks. Thanks for listening.